Today on Teddy Tech TV, we take a close look at the latest from Samsung, the Galaxy S9 and S9 Plus. Wait a minute, Galaxy S8, what did I tell you? You're not in this one. No. The Galaxy S9 and its big brother, the S9 Plus, look almost exactly like last year's models. So what's the point? Is there anything here worth getting excited about? Let's take a closer look. The S9 retails for $959 Canadian and $719 in the US. And the S9 Plus is $1,099 Canadian or $839 US. The phones are powered by Qualcomm's Snapdragon 845 in North America and the Exynos 9810 everywhere else. You get 64 gigabytes of internal storage, as well as 4 gigabytes of RAM on the S9 and 6 on the S9 Plus. Physically, very little has changed. The design is still striking. These are two of the best looking handsets you can buy. All the electronics are sandwiched between two panes of Gorilla Glass 5, joined by a ring of aluminum. Depending on where you live, you can choose from either midnight black and lilac purple, or coral blue and titanium gray, which is the color of the review units I have. The front glass is 20% thicker this year, which should make the display more durable. As a result, though, both phones are slightly thicker at 8.5 millimeters versus 8 millimeters for the S8 and 8.1 millimeters for the S8 Plus. There's also a slight difference in weight, but it's hardly worth noting. Let's work our way around the outside of the phone. Along the left side is the volume rocker and a button to activate Bixby. You can turn Bixby off, but you still can't reprogram that button, by the way. The power button is on the right. Up top is the SIM tray, which also takes a micro SD card for up to 400 gigabytes of expandable storage, and a microphone. Along the bottom is one of two speakers, another microphone, a USB-C connector, and a headphone jack. And those last two are such a refreshing combo. USB-C offers a fast, non-proprietary way to sync and charge your phone that's showing up everywhere, and the headphone connector means you'll have one less dongle to worry about. Every phone should offer the same, but Apple's spoken and that ship has sailed. On the back of the S9 Plus, you'll find dual cameras, though the S9 only has one, along with the flash and a heart rate sensor. The fingerprint sensor has been moved to where it should have been all along so that you're less likely to smudge the camera when you reach for it. And everything's sealed tight with IP68 dust and water resistance. The displays, which are pretty much the same as last year, are stunning. The S9 Plus has a 6.2-inch AMOLED panel and a maximum resolution of 2960 by 1440 and a pixel density of 529 ppi, while the smaller S9 has a 5.8-inch screen with a pixel density of 570 ppi. These panels are really bright and they're easy to view outdoors. Colors are extremely vibrant, so while they're less accurate, the displays are more fun to look at and images seem more alive. For me, that's a fair trade-off. There's some blue shift here, more than on the iPhone X, for example, but it's not as bad as what we saw on the Pixel 2 XL. The display's curved edges look great, but can sometimes make it awkward to grip the phone without accidentally tapping the screen. Last year's cameras were good, but the cameras on this year's Galaxies are even better, rivaling the Pixel 2 and the iPhone X. The unique dual aperture design of the wide-angle lens, which switches automatically between f1.5 and f2.4, does amazing in low light. The S9 Plus also has a second telephoto lens for 2x optical zoom. Both phones have optical image stabilization and can shoot 4K video at 60 frames per second. They can also shoot super slow-mo, which is 960 frames per second at 720p, but the mode has some annoying limitations. The feature only activates when it detects motion in a particular part of the frame, and you can only record short bursts of footage at that speed. Samsung is also talking up its AR emoji because of course they are. This feature scans your face to create a custom avatar which you can then control, which is just like the Emoji on the iPhone X and just as useless in my opinion. These sorts of features get people talking and they ultimately sell phones, but most people don't use them after the first day or two. As for performance, the Snapdragon 845 and the S9 Plus returned a GEEKBENCH score of 8,355. Oreo 8.0 feels snappy on both phones, and apps load quickly, and the UI is buttery smooth. And because of the extra RAM on the S9 Plus and the way that Oreo handles multitasking, I can leave a dozen apps open without any noticeable slowdown. I can't complain about battery life either. The battery in the S9 has a capacity of 3,000 mAh, while the S9 Plus has a 3,500 mAh battery. After a day of heavy use, there's still about 10 to 20% juice left in the tank on the smaller phone and 25 to 40% in the larger one. Both handsets support wireless fast charging too, just like last year. What about sound? The S9 and the S9 Plus both sport dual speakers for stereo sound and are supposed to be 25% louder than the S8. The earpiece serves as the second speaker, and they do get pretty loud. You can also turn on Dolby Atmos to enhance the sound further. Now, Samsung describes this as three-dimensional sound, but it's not simulated surround sound. Instead, Dolby Atmos seems to widen the soundstage and create more separation between instruments and vocals. So, what's the verdict? Well, the Galaxy S9 may not be an exciting and radical redesign, but I'm glad that's the case. New designs bring new problems. Instead, Samsung took what was already an excellent phone and they refined it in something close to perfect. The hardware is tight, gorgeous, and functional. The camera is among the best, and the dual aperture lens is more than just a gimmick. In fact, there are only two significant flaws with the phone that I can see. One I already mentioned, which is the curved glass, which makes it hard to hold the phone without accidentally registering a tap. The other is something that's common to every Android phone that doesn't have Pixel in its name, and that's software support. With the Galaxy S9 and all other Android phones, you can only count on getting updates for a couple of years after the device launches, and even then, updates might take weeks or months to make it to your phone. The situation's sad when compared to Apple, which supports its phones for 4 or 5 years after launch. If you're the type to trade up every year or two, this isn't an issue, but if you want a phone that's going to last an entire presidential term, for example, you should take a hard look at the Pixel 2 first. The only other reason not to jump in is if you already own a Galaxy S8. The major upgrades this year are the CPU and the camera, and the Snapdragon 835 in last year's phone is still plenty fast. And though the camera's been considerably improved, last year's was already pretty good. For everyone else though, there's very little reason not to buy a Galaxy S9 or S9 Plus. Thanks for watching. So what do you think of these Galaxy phones, and how do you think they compare to the other flagships? Sound off in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.